What would you be doing right now if you believed you were enough? We have this great ability to make everything harder than it needs to be.
Hello and welcome to Hello Moxie. I'm excited to be joined today by the lovely, the amazing Sherry Yellin. Sherry, how are you today? How's it going?
Wonderful.
Yes, I'm so honored to have you as a guest on the show. And I would love for you to share with our listeners a little bit about who you are and what's lighting you up right now.
So I live outside of the Dallas area. I always try to help people identify where the accent is coming from. And I have the real blessing of leading the Yellin group, and we do leadership development and coaching for leaders and teams across industries. And I have been doing this since 2001.
Wow.
A while. And I have a new book coming out in hopefully October. The publishing process is quite a journey, but it's the science of high performance leadership. And my background is in cognitive learning, and my greatest passion is to help translate how the brain learns in really practical ways to people in leadership roles, people who want to influence others so that they get a better understanding of this is how the brain learns, and I can work with it and hopefully get better results with less effort, or I can work against it and create a whole lot of unnecessary problems and challenges. And if you choose to do that, you forfeit your right to complain.
How does the brain learn, Sherry?
Whew, that's a big question.
Yeah.
But if I were to just pull out some of the key nuggets I want the whole world to understand is, first of all, we got to minimize negative threat. And not all threat is negative threat. Clearly, some threat is really motivating. And what your brain perceives as negative threat may be slightly different than what my brain perceives as negative threat. However, negative threat usually meets about 3 different criteria. There's some degree of uncertainty and confusion. There's a feeling, whether it's true or not, a feeling that I don't have a lot of choice or voice or agency in the decision. And then the third criteria is that my brain is anticipating some sort of negative outcome, which usually involves loss of some sort. So I think the pandemic, COVID, is probably the ultimate example of when all 3 of those things came together for a long period of time for all of us. And that's where you see people really start to lose a grip on reality. We saw, you think about that year, it started with people fighting over toilet paper. And then it moved to the racial tensions that grew. And then by the end of the year, that's when people were storming the Capitol. And to me, not that it's a great case study, but it's a case study we should learn from.
Interesting. So basically, the brain learns that if there's a negative threat, if we perceive there to be any sort of threat in the environment, it's basically going to cause us to go into this fight or flight mode or defensive mode, where it kind of like it brings out the worst parts of us. Is that kind of like and that we need to learn how to manage those threats and understand them and get curious about them.
Exactly, because it all starts with self-awareness. So just even recognizing the behaviors that you're going to see, behaviors when the brain feels like it's safe, are going to be those great behaviors that we really want every single day. People are collaborating. They can see from different perspectives. Even if we don't agree, we can see from different perspectives. It's all those executive good kinds of planning and having willpower and all those things. Those are going to be the behaviors you see when your brain feels safe. And then when your brain is under negative threat, that's when you start to see defensiveness. People get overly committed to being right.
Yes.
And you mentioned the fight or flight. It's true. And the other F word that we put in there is not the one you're probably thinking, but it is that we flock.
Mm.
And when your brain's under threat, we tend to move towards people that think and act and like us even more. And it's fun. It's funny because you'll see even subtle examples of flocking when, let's say you've been in a meeting and let's say the leader mentions a change that's coming up and it feels threatening in some way. You'll see people like look at people that they work with who can validate that same thought.
Interesting.
One group we were working with recently, one of the things that this team had started doing, they would text each other during the meeting. So they're all in the same room, but the leader was talking with us and he said, the last time I was talking about a new policy, I could see people texting each other in the meeting. And even that is this sense of flocking. It's like, I want somebody to validate whether it's pain or my feelings, or I want to be with people who think and act like me.
So, okay, so I get in negative threat zone a lot. I'm going to be honest with you. So how do you advise people when they're in these moments to, first of all, recognize and bring awareness to the fact that they're responding, they're responding to a negative threat in maybe a way that's not healthy? Like, what are your steps to like awareness and then shifting to seeing things from a broader perspective?
So one of the most important ones is this idea of recognizing uncertainty. We actually have a funny term that we use on our team called FOBU, which is the fear of being uncertain. And it will, when I'm working with people and they feel overwhelmed or they feel anxiety, these are just great. Your body is doing exactly what it should do. It's telling you I'm overwhelmed. It's telling you I'm anxious. And then to shift what meaning you're giving that. Like, it's a good thing because your body's telling you what it's feeling. So recognizing it's not the change, or it's not necessarily all these tasks that are overwhelming me. It's the uncertainty. So to just realize that it's the uncertainty that's causing it. And the great news of that is, if uncertainty or confusion is the problem, well, then clarity is the solution. And so we identify what are some of those feelings for you that are indicators that confusion or uncertainty is showing up. And so even listing those things out, so listing all those things and then identifying if these are areas where I'm uncertain, where can I go get the clarity, or who can help me get clarity? And I had this exact same thing happen 2 weekends ago. Woke up in the middle of the night because I run a business and there's a lot of people that are depending upon you. And it is a crazy year. I had that 3 a.m. wake up with just anxiety. And again, the good news is recognizing, uncertainty has just shown up with its army of gremlins. And so I got up in the middle of the night, and I got a piece of paper, and I just started writing down all the things that were uncertain. And beside that, was able to identify, well, where can I go or who can I go to get clarity? And you can literally feel the tension, the stress start to maybe not disappear, but definitely not take over your entire thoughts, because that's debilitating.
Yeah, it is. And you can get stuck in a loop that just feels like it's never ending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I think you said something really beautiful about how I love how you approach the uncertainty with some grace, right? Like it's not a bad thing that you're getting these signals from your body. It's actually a signal. And rather than looking at it this negative thing that you've got to push away, I love your exercise you just shared because it's about getting curious about it. What is it that my body's telling me? What is it the uncertainty is trying to bring forward for me? And then how can I now move forward, get some clarity on it, and have some control? Because I think you hit the nail on the head that people just, when people feel like they are not in control, that's when it gets really scary, right?
It really is. And Nicole, another way that it can be useful, and I'll just speak from my own example, but I can get Monday morning overwhelmed pretty easily. And I love what I do. I love it. I love the people I work with. So it really has nothing to do sometimes with that. But I can feel it start Sunday night. I'll get Sunday night anxiety just thinking about the week ahead. And on Monday mornings, it is not uncommon for me to start so a couple of things, anxiety, but that feeling of overwhelm when you're flooded.
Yeah.
Just start identifying, where do I need clarity? Can help you get enough clarity to get back in motion. You get out of that stuck, overwhelmed place. Such an easy tool to use.
What do you advise for leaders who are, dealing with a lot of, like you just mentioned, maybe overwhelmed because there's a lot of decisions that have to be made and there's so many projects and so many challenges that they have to work through? I will say as a leader, sometimes it's like my nervous system almost craves the chaos. So, like, what do you advise for leaders who maybe so much so that sometimes it can be hard for me to shift from doing to just being, if that makes sense? And like when I try to step back, my nervous system is just like, I got to keep going. I got to keep working. I got to keep doing this. When sometimes the right thing is for me to just take some space and take a step back. What do you advise for people like that who may not even be aware that that's happening, or how help them shift?
So I want to go back to our phrase of FOBU, which is fear of being uncertain.
Yeah.
But we also talk about fear of being unfamiliar. So you mentioned that we crave the chaos. And that is a very common pattern, especially with high performers. We are, whether that FOBU is fear of being unfamiliar or fear of being uncomfortable, chaos feels familiar. Chaos feels comfortable.
Yeah.
The high performers that I work with, and probably we would fall in this category too, we have this great ability to make everything harder than it needs to be. We have equated making it hard with being successful.
Yeah.
And so therefore, if it's not hard, I want to make it hard because my brain has associated hard with success. I think that probably started for most people in school. Definitely in college, I made everything harder than it needed to be. And I started working with a coach in 2015. And I remember one of the first questions he asked me was, because I'd gotten a big project, and immediately, what do we do when we get a big project? Let's make it hard. He asked me, what would it be like if you delivered on this project and it wasn't hard? And my brain, I had never even considered that possibility. And recently, I was working with someone who was over a hospital system, and they were merging with two other hospital systems. And that was our discussion, which was, what if you led this merger and it wasn't hard? And it is an interesting thing because hard does become familiar and it becomes comfortable. So our brain resists what's unfamiliar and uncomfortable. And going back, to your question, is that space that sometimes you can give yourself so that you're not so deeply entrenched in it. Just zoom out. And sometimes just having a single question can give you enough space to gain a little bit more perspective and make a more intentional choice. I'm a big fan of having a pocket full of questions that you can use to coach yourself. Things like, what would this look like if it weren't hard? Or maybe even better, what would this look like if it were actually fun? This is one of my favorites.
Question. Yes.
Or where do I need clarity is another power question. And one of, I guess, probably my all-time go-to is, what meaning am I giving this? And what meaning do I want to give it? Because just even exposing people to the idea that you can give an event whatever meaning you want is liberating.
Yeah, it's so what you're illustrating is the power of the mind. Like, we have the power over our mind to choose whatever outcome we want. We're not victims of, like, what you're demonstrating is just how powerful our mind can be when we really use it in that way. So cool.
It is so powerful. Probably one of the most famous stories in neuroscience is Phineas Gage, the infamous railroad worker who had the pipe go through his head and could walk and talk. And people, were amazed that he lived through that. And it was through him and other people who went through tragedies that we realized the brain controls personality, behavior, and decision making, and all those things. And so that's a real famous story. But most of us do not need a pipe through our forehead to change our behavior. We just need a little uncertainty. You throw a little uncertainty to people, and it can throw us, to me, it can throw you completely off your purpose for being here on the planet. Because how many people do we know that, and I mean, I've been a victim of that myself, of being so paralyzed by all the unknowns that it was just easier to, could have been easier to walk away, not maybe take the leap and do what you really wanted to do or what you really felt called to do, to leave that corporate position, to, I think about in this very room in around 2014, I had my own moment of overwhelm that was debilitating. And even with all these years of studying the brain, I can look in this corner in this room and know that's where I was literally on the floor in tears, just my going through a divorce, had two kids that were, sixth grade and eighth grade. So entering all those years and self-employed. And it just felt at that point, the clearest thing I could think of was just go get a normal job. So it can, when you think about a little uncertainty here and there can throw us off. But when it's hitting so many areas of your life at once, you really can be paralyzed with fear.
So, what did you do in that moment when you were on the floor? How did you, I want to know what happened next. What did you do? What did you, what
There
happened?
were there were a couple events. One is I applied for a job,
Mm.
and I was on the interview, and I was asking why the person in the role was leaving. And he said she wants to go start her own business. She wants to be a Sherry Yellin.
Wow.
And it was one of those moments where I realized, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because like so many of us, especially as entrepreneurs, we genuinely feel called to do what
Oh,
we do. There's
totally.
divine work for sure. It's almost like you can't not do what you do because it's so deep. So that was number one. And that was probably the time where I thought, I'm staying in this.
Mhm.
And in the end, a few months later, I started working with a coach
Mhm.
because I realized if I could have figured out how to scale the business on my own, I would have figured it out already.
Yeah.
Right. Because I can outread you, I can outwork you, but I needed a new perspective of someone to be able to guide me. And I think one of your terms that I love so much, a courage companion.
Yes. Yes.
Need a courage companion.
Yes.
And he, in addition to calling me out on making everything hard and a lot of other things that I wasn't taking responsibility for, one of the things that he said to me was, borrow my belief until you can have your own. And I think, isn't that the coolest thing when you've got a courage companion who can hold a big space for you or hold big belief until you've got enough confidence that you believe it yourself. And he did that for me. And we still work together today.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I can totally relate to that experience. I too have an executive coach who has been my courage companion in a lot of ways, who very similarly helped me recognize some of the unhealthy patterns I had learned and even unhealthy relationship that I was in that was very toxic, a business relationship. And without her helping me see it and acknowledge what was really happening, I don't know if I would have had the courage to make the hard choice to step away from it, So I totally love that. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have her as a courage companion. So I'm a huge advocate for having a courage companion like that. That's so cool. Mm.
It connects to back to what you said earlier about giving yourself space.
Yeah.
And so there's some ways, have some good questions, but sometimes having that different perspective gives you just enough space to be able to see things for what they are, because the fish in the water is really true. You really can't see what you can't see,
Yeah.
and then you can't even, it's always the beliefs that are driving that behavior.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to challenge your beliefs because they've been such a part of you you can't even see it anymore. And a lot of the
It's like
beliefs,
subconscious. It's like second nature a lot of the
it
time.
is
Mhm.
because it feels true.
Yes, in your body. It does.
It
Yes.
feels true. And, just because something feels true doesn't make it so.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we have to take a moment. Just because something feels true, that doesn't make it so. That is such wisdom. Yeah. Yeah.
I think about, we work at the beliefs level a lot because even a corporation, you'll see certain behaviors and norms of the culture. And it's so easy to want to go in and change those actions. But what you really have to step back and say, what are the beliefs that are fueling those behaviors and those actions? And sometimes I compare beliefs to some of the clothes in your closet. They used to fit, but they don't now. It's okay. Or it used to be something that you would put on and you think, damn, I look good. But you put it on today and you're like, that isn't, just because you wore it in the 80s doesn't mean you need to be wearing it today.
You mean I need to get rid of all my 90s clothes and I'm still holding on to? Yeah.
And so, when you think about it, if we were doing a closet clean out, you would really take everything out and then make real intentional choices about what stays. And sometimes I really believe we need a belief clean out. And you can keep what you want, but how much of those beliefs were handed down from us from 5 generations ago?
Right.
Like great, great, great grandma, we don't even know her name, and she's influencing the results in our life.
So true.
And so part of this whole idea of when you think about kind of full circle of how your brain learns, you have to challenge some of these things. Recognizing how your brain does respond to things that are unfamiliar. And then being able to dig into it of where real change starts to happen. And that is when we can shift beliefs and create new experiences to reinforce those beliefs. And it is going to be scary as hell, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to be uncertain, but we already know that. That's our brain, and we're going to thank it for doing its job.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean we should stop.
So I have a question there around the beliefs and the action. What comes first? Do you have to believe it first, or do you have to act first? What do you think?
I think that I'm just going to do a sequence or a hierarchy. I think that experiences drive beliefs, which drive our actions, which drive our results. Now, there are other people that have a lot of different things in those layers, but at its simplest form. So it's kind of both. In other words, past experiences have formed those beliefs. And again, caution, some of those experiences haven't even been our experiences. It might have been the experiences of our parents or experiences of people around us. But nevertheless, it has shaped these beliefs that are fueling the actions that we're taking today or not taking. Because how many people, and we all, suffer from it, but where we're not taking action that could get us the result that we want. So you mentioned working with your coach. I mean, I work with one too, but the belief for a lot of people is I can do it on my own. I mean, it's the American way.
Yeah.
I can do this all on my own.
Yep.
I don't need help. So, or that's a big cost, because usually working with a coach is, a substantial cost. Or you can look at that as an investment. You can shift that belief of, it would be crazy to do this on my own. In fact, nothing great has ever been done in isolation. That's only in the movies.
Yeah.
In real life, every great invention, every great innovation, usually when you take a look behind the scenes, there was a team of people that helped create that. So just thinking about what are the beliefs that are driving my actions or my lack of action.
Yeah.
That's creating this result.
It's all in the reframe. Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah. And also seeing the people around us as not being afraid to ask for help. Yeah, I'll tell you, I remember when I first started my business, I was terrified to go out and network. I was like, oh my gosh. I'd go to these networking meetings. It was in the middle of COVID too, Sherry. So COVID had I launched my business a month before COVID, and I'm like, okay, what do I do now? So I go to these virtual networking events, and I remember the whole time I'd be just so scared that I'm like, they're going to realize I'm just so dumb. I'm going to say something stupid. They're going to think I'm dumb. And I was afraid to ask for help for that very reason. I had this limiting belief that if asking for help meant that I couldn't do it. I wasn't equipped. And then everyone would see she doesn't have what it takes. She can't do it on her own, you know? But the thing that really shifted for me is once I actually started asking for help and asking people questions and getting curious, it's like my whole world opened up. And everybody loves to help. Like people love to help people. You know, I love to help people. If someone came to me and said, Nicole, I have this problem. I'd love your advice. I'm not sure what to do. I would be so honored, you know, and I think like if people can see that really like we all have this natural like we want to help. We want to be able to give and be generous. And the more that we can humble ourselves and actually ask, it's really powerful what can happen.
So I want to ask you a question, and it could be way off, but you thinking not asking for help because I'm not enough, was that belief of I'm not enough on my own? I'm just curious, was that connected with that toxic business relationship?
Anyway. No, it started in childhood. So it started with, it was definitely a childhood thing. I had it, you know, it was I had a parent who, that was something that I learned as a child that I had to earn. I was not enough unless I could do it on my own or figure it out. So so it wasn't the toxic business relationship. It was another toxic relationship. But yeah.
Well, the reason why I ask is because there was a point in my business where I entered a partnership with someone, and that was not a good. It was not a good direction.
Yeah.
But when I look back, I entered into that partnership with that business relationship, if I'm being honest, because I didn't think I was enough on my own.
Yep. Same.
And that's what I was curious about.
It's the same. I was in the same situation. I really felt like there subconsciously I needed someone else. And then I realized I didn't.
That is such a common theme.
Yeah. Or like this need to be rescued. I think a lot of women struggle with this, like, you know, someone's going to come and save the day for me. And it's just, you know, and nobody's going to rescue you. The only person who's going to rescue you is yourself. Like, I firmly believe that. Like, you have the power to be able to create and rescue yourself. You don't need someone else to do that for you.
Yeah. And it comes from that place of I'm not enough on my own.
Yeah.
And there have been multiple times once in my business, maybe twice in my business, but even in my personal life where I know I handed my a vision that was given to me. I handed that over to someone else because I didn't feel like I had what it took on my own. And each time that happened, it never was a good outcome. But it took several iterations of that personally and professionally experience, right?
Yeah.
To reshape the belief that you have the answers or to trust yourself. And so that's interesting that we have that in common.
Yeah.
Because I really do see that a lot, especially with women, where you know that you've been given this vision or it's something you're called to do, but just out of this feeling that you're not enough on your own, you have to have somebody else.
Totally. Yeah, I think it is very, very common. There's still like this not enoughness that as women, we still are trying to figure, you know, overcome this sense of like, I'm not enough. I need someone else, or I need more education, or I need more experience, or I need more, and then I will be enough for whatever. And I have definitely learned through experience that that's not true. One of the things that helped me is actually writing down, like to your note earlier about like, when you're uncertain, you'd write down what you were uncertain about. The act of writing writing down what are the experiences that I've had where I have done it and figured it out on my own and it's worked out. And even if it's like a small thing, like if me just like taking a catalog and being like, oh, I did this completely on my own and I trusted myself and this is what happened. And it was huge. And it was always a positive outcome, you know? And the more I could catalog those things, it gave me confidence because I had seen that I had already done it. It wasn't like something that was out there. And it was like, I did this. I made this decision on my own and it turned out amazing. So I can do it again. And then it's like by cataloging it and then taking those baby steps again and again, that's where you start to build the confidence and the shifting of your brain to say like, no, I got this. I did it before. I can do it again. And sometimes it's just like you have to take the time to actually mentally write those things down or, you know, remember them because otherwise sometimes you can get stuck.
Yeah, I am truly talk about a belief that has formed through the years is that there's no way around journaling.
Mm.
You literally have to physically write it out in order to see the patterns, in order to see the solution.
Yeah.
There's just no pass. And some, people that I work with, sometimes they're like, oh, I don't have, I'm not a journaler or will become one. It's sort of like, I can't think about working out and expect a result. I have to physically do the reps. Journaling to me is like strength training. You have to physically do it in order for you to be able to get the clarity. And Nicole, as you were talking, I was thinking a question that, to pose to the listeners and even to myself maybe is, what would you be doing right now if you believed you were enough on your own?
Such a powerful question.
So if we just believed I was enough on my own, what would I be doing?
Yeah. You know what's really exciting about that question for me as I think about it is like I really feel like now I'm doing exactly what I would be doing. Isn't that so like when you say that and I could answer it that way and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm actually doing the things that I would be doing." It's really powerful and empowering. And for anyone listening, that could be true for you too.
Uh-huh.
You can absolutely create whatever you want and you just have to believe it. It's the secret.
You really do. And maybe have a courage companion to go with you on the journey, because as my coach says, we do have weekly meetings, but he's always a text away. He said, because the shit can hit, the stories in your head can hit. You don't plan that on your weekly session. And it's knowing that you've got a companion that's there when the gremlins show up, because I'm convinced that when you do step into the unknown and you do step into what you feel called to do, and, when you kind of level up, the gremlins, get ready for them. And that too should be feedback, just like that angst in your body. Oftentimes the gremlins should be feedback that I'm doing it right rather than I'm not doing it right. And if they ever get quiet, they're not gone away. Okay. They didn't retreat. They're regrouping.
So true.
They're going to come back with more, with more force.
And I think like we should just be grateful for the gremlins.
Grateful for the gremlins. Maybe that's
what helped us.
Maybe that's the book we write together.
Yeah. Be grateful for the gremlins. Like
be grateful for the gremlins.
You're right, because they teach us, they challenge us, they push us. If the gremlins weren't there, what would it be like? Would we be able to become the people that we want to be? Resilient, strong, tough. Would we be able to get the clarity that we're seeking without those gremlins pushing us to do that?
Yeah. Because oftentimes when they're not there, it means you aren't you aren't stretching, you aren't growing, you
Mhm.
aren't moving into the unknown and maybe next leveling.
Yeah.
So welcome them, even if they come at 3 a.m. in the morning.
And call your courage companion and have them, yeah.
Your courage companion.
It's so true. Having someone's perspective like your coach and my coach, it's game changing. It's such a game changer because it gets you out of, your own head and can really be a very powerful thing. So, oh, this is lovely. Sherry, I would love to know, like, who is a woman or women in history who's inspired you?
I was thinking about that because I do love that question and the theme of your podcast. And I think about especially my mom as an entrepreneur, and talk about dealing with the uncertainties and the unknowns. She actually has a salon,
Mhm.
and my sister is there now, and that was her legacy partner. So she's now handed it over to her.
Mm.
But she started her business in a day where a woman couldn't even get a loan. My dad co-signed,
Isn't that
which
crazy to
sounds,
think in our lifetime?
yes, and it wasn't that long ago. I mean,
1989.
yes, it is crazy to me.
Mhm.
For her to have the courage to do that, and she just set an example for me of following what you feel called to do. So that's definitely one person that comes to mind. There have been others through the years that saw something in me I couldn't see in myself, and held a belief or opened a door. The person who or didn't. So one of the best leaders I ever had was the person that saw that I wasn't ready for what I thought I was ready for.
Mm.
And if she had allowed me to step into that role too soon, I wouldn't have been successful. But she held me back and helped me develop the skills that I needed so that when that opportunity was ready again, I was ready for it. And I'm sure that wasn't an easy response when I asked to apply for my master's is in technical writing. So I wanted to be like a, senior technical writer. Today sounds miserable, but she knew I wasn't ready for that because she knew all the politics and the other dynamics. It wasn't just the technical skills, and I wasn't ready for that. And then other people who, especially when I started my business in 2001, gave me an opportunity and allowed me to start building my network and start building belief. And then I think about the women that I've gotten the privilege of coaching who were in maybe corporate roles, or they, wanted to, well, most of them were in corporate roles and realizing I don't want to be here anymore. This used to fit, but it doesn't fit now. And then so to be a part of their story and being their courage companion to help them make that, nothing makes me more proud than to see that person who left to start their own business, or, one in particular who just this week, she was in an organization where I met her, and she was going nowhere. I mean, there were not going to be opportunities for her, but for her to have the courage to leave, and in a period of time, she wasn't sure where she was going to go. But today, just this week, she was promoted to the chief people officer
Wow.
of a company that truly appreciates her, and she shines, and they get awards for all the work that she's doing. And nothing makes me more proud than that. And so those women that, I guess, through the years, like you said, took initiative, and were willing to take the risk and to believe in themselves in many different ways, and then believe in me. Big motivation.
That's so beautiful. It's wonderful to hear how you've been a courage companion and a mentor for so many women, to see them shine and to be able to witness that. That's so powerful. Very cool.
And, I love the name of your podcast. I love the word Moxie. It's probably been one of my favorite words. I love words. I wanted to be a college English teacher until I became a college English teacher is my past story. But Moxie is just a great word. In fact, when I started my company, I wanted to use that in the name, but
Really? No kidding.
Someone I had met prior before that had already used it in her consulting. So, I can't use that. But, I just think women who've truly modeled that word of Moxie, to have that, the origin or the etymology of that word, I think it comes from the Algonquin society and it meant deep, dark water. It meant wisdom. It meant almost a mystery. It's a beautiful word. And it's women who I think listen to that wisdom and were willing to move into the mystery. Those are the people that for sure are inspiring. And I think that's who we're all called to be. And some days we're going to be better at it than others.
Wow. My gosh. I'm all verklempt. So I did not know that about the origin of Moxie. That is such a beautiful, and now I'm super jazzed to learn about it. I thought it started with the Moxie soft drink. There's a soft drink called Moxie, and I didn't even realize that the term was an indigenous. Oh my gosh, I'm super excited to learn about that. That's such a
some reading, because it is a beautiful word that just unlocks even more meaning and force behind it.
I love this idea of stepping into the mystery, because that's so true about, that's so cool.
So, okay, quick English, language lesson. But, in the Old Testament where they ate manna means mystery. And if you think about, they just had enough for the day.
Yeah.
If they couldn't store up the manna because it would spoil overnight. So you think about, the words are related, and you think about every day they got up and they ate the mystery, and they trusted that there would be sufficient for the next day. It's beautiful, isn't it?
So beautiful. They ate the uncertainty.
Yes, they did. They ate the uncertainty.
Yeah, that's so cool. Oh, what a way to end our show, Sherry. So good. So for our listeners out there, I would love to invite you to eat the mystery, eat the uncertainty, step into the fear, find your courage companion. And there's been so much wisdom. What if it was, ask yourself those questions, have your pocket full of questions, write down the questions that you're going to ask yourself when you're facing uncertainty. What if it wasn't hard? What meaning am I giving to this? And what meaning do I want to give to this? And I just think there's been so much wisdom today, Sherry, for you listeners, that it is just so powerful. So step into the mystery and lead with Moxie. And Sherry, thank you so much for being our guest. It's been such an honor.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right. Until next time, say hello, Moxie.
Thanks for listening to the Hello Moxie podcast. If today's story sparks something in you, share it with another woman who's ready to rise. Learn more about our community by visiting hellomoxie.us and discover how the Moxie method can help you reclaim your voice and lead with impact. See you next time.